for video games. So Overgrowth was technically the first video game that I started working on, but around the same time that I started working on Overgrowth, we some friends of mine and I got a job to work on the Star Wars, the Old Republic music. So that was a pretty exciting event that sort of overlapped with Overgrowth. And spent a week up at Skywalker Ranch recording a big orchestral session. That was cool. I also worked on things like Without a Trace, the TV show. Worked on Crank 2 with Mike Patton. I've actually done a record with Mike Patton, as well as I've worked on 8 or something of Danger Mouse's most recent records. So kind of working in the music, film, TV, video game industry in general. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, you've really done a lot of stuff. I mean, yeah, you really.
How old are you?
Yeah, how old are you? That's a good question.
I'm 31, so right in the middle of that video game demographic, I guess, from 18 to 35. Getting old, though, I guess so, right?
Yeah, you're on the later end of that scale.
I am. I'm getting up there. But video games have been a big, on and off. They've been a big part of my life. I remember when the Nintendo came out and what a big deal it was for us back in the day, and then sort of everything that's happened since then. I kind of fell away from it for a while and came back and was surprised at what had happened, then fell away again, then came back, and
So are you playing video games like right now?
I try to when I get a chance, but
So what games do you play then when you do play?
Lately,
Yeah.
I've been playing a lot of the Humble Bundle games. Those have been cool. I don't know. I recently got a PS3, so I've been playing some of those games. Borderlands, a friend of mine really likes to play, so we've been doing that. And Arkham Asylum. Just, I don't know. I like to play games quickly and then move on. I'm not a complete every aspect of them. So
Yeah.
I like to kind of see what the games are all about, see what the hype is, but usually I don't spend a lot of time on any one game. So
I wish I was more like that.
well, it's a little bit tricky. I listed a lot of projects that I've worked on. It's hard to find time to do those projects and play games at the same time. So I actually played through the second Assassin's Creed in like 3 days, and then had to not sleep for the rest of that week trying to make up music. It was kind of funny.
Yeah, video games does that to you somehow.
It's true. So
yeah. By the way, all the people in the chat right now, if you have any questions you would like to ask Anton here on air, just write them in the chat, and I will try to catch them there. Let's move on to another question here. How is making music for video games different from making music for, like, for example, movies or stuff like that?
Well, the big difference between making music for movies is with movies there's a set timing and pacing that has to happen, that you really need to follow the story. Writing music for film and TV, it's all about the story. Gaming has some elements of story, especially in cutscenes, where a lot of time that's where you'll hear music. But gaming has a flexibility and also limitations in expressiveness. So because you're not serving picture, you're a little more free to create whatever kind of music you want. Whereas on the flip side, the music can't dominate a scene, and if the music is too short, it becomes repetitive. with downloadable games, you have to worry about file size, so you can't make songs that are 25 minutes to fill a scene or something. And then there's also the interactivity, which I think is one of the coolest aspects about video game music. Before I started doing video games, I was really interested in aleatoric music and installation music for art installations, where you would have light sensors and motion sensors that as you moved around you would trigger different layers and sounds that may or may not work together based on what's in the room. And I think that there's a cool level of that in video games, at least the possibility of it. Unfortunately, I think that most of the time what it comes down to is, okay, the interactivity is we're in the fight scene, so now switch to the fight music and maybe make it a little more intense. When you've hit Bowser 3 times, he becomes more angry, so the music gets more intense or something,
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
I don't think it needs to be any more complicated than that. To be honest, I'm like when I think about it, yeah. Like, Final Fantasy is a game that I think has great music, and the battle music in that is just like the same thing repeating, and then at the end it goes da na 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 na.
Right.
And it's like simple, but like enjoyable.
Sure. I think there are times when that's true, but I think that the possibilities to do something more are there, and
Yeah.
Someone just mentioned procedural music in the chat, and I know that the game Fractal uses procedural music, and I actually spoke with the composer about that at Indiecade this past year, and it's really cool. The idea of procedural music that is actually created by the game, to me, is interesting. I think that they're, I understand like letting the music play the way that you were talking about, Markuss, but on the flip side, I just think that there is possibility for more, and it doesn't have to be something that grabs your attention. It can be subtle things that change over time. To me, make it a more interesting experience to write the music that way.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. And by the way, it was Connor_36 and Tanjevik that asked that question. And we also have actually another question in the chat here, and it's Dremond who is wondering if you will be working on sound effects as well as the music in Overgrowth.
I actually just do music. I don't do sound effects. So no, that's somebody else.
Do you like doing sound effects, or otherwise would you like to explore that perhaps, or is that something you're not interested in at all?
Every time that I've ever done sound effects, which have usually been for low budget films, I've hated it. So I really have no interest in doing it on a larger scale. So no.
Okay. All right. Well, just a final question, I suppose. What is your favorite music? Do you have any kind of favorite music? What game has the best music according to you?
Oof.
Might be hard to someone who makes music such varying as you do.
I mean, in my quote unquote free time, which is usually I tend to take 2-hour long walks in the neighborhood where I live. I like to listen to avant-garde classical music, so it's not really something that fits in anywhere else in my professional career at the moment. But I really enjoy listening to that. So
maybe it's like, I don't know how it is said in English, but listen to different music than you hear all the time every day might be good. My English skills are just phoning me right now.
Yeah,
but you know what I mean. Just having different music than you listen to all the time. Otherwise, might be fun to listen to.
Right. It's cleansing the palate would be one way to put it. Inspiration from an outside source, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of really good music out there. and I like to try and find as much of it as I can, and that's what's been keeping my interest the most for a while right now.
Can you give us some examples?
Sure. I really like Heinrich Goretzky, who unfortunately passed away in November. He was a Polish composer, and if certainly his most
famous piece. What was the last
piece,
name again?
Goretzky, which is Gorecki, and yeah, Polish composer. There's a a Russian composer I like a lot. Her name is Sofia Gobajulina, which I might not be able to spell from memory off the top of my head.
I tell you what, just like paste them into chat later.
Yeah, I could paste a few. Certainly, there have been a lot of really interesting Eastern European composers in the last 50 years that I really like a lot. So, although certainly, Tan Dune, who wrote the music for Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Hero, has a lot of very interesting classical music as well that I really enjoy. So.
Don't really remember those films for their soundtracks, but I could check them out again.
Yeah, they were kind of similar in some ways, but they certainly made an impact on a lot of people. He kind of combined classical, Eastern and Western music together in a lot of interesting ways. So,
yeah,
I would say definitely worth checking out.
You, as Markuss suggested, you can just post the names in the chat for those after you have perhaps done a little live performance, because after the interview we are going to have a live performance by you, if you're ready for that right now.
Oh sure, I can. I was just gonna play the Overgrowth theme on the same flute, so.
Okay, cool. So Markuss and I will just shut our mouths and we will listen to Anton when he performs the Overgrowth main theme. So, ladies and gentlemen, Anton Reel. Very nice, well done.
Thanks. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen it before, there's a video of me doing that in a pier in Berkeley, not Brooklyn, Berkeley, when I was visiting the guys, and some people asked me about whether or not this flute doesn't actually play all of the notes that are in the theme, so you hear some octave displacement and some other things that don't quite match what you may be used to. So unfortunately, I play these wooden flutes, but they're limited in their scales and abilities. So
I actually mostly listen to I listen a lot to just that version, so I don't actually remember how the normal version sounds anymore, honestly.
Well, if you listen to the one on, I mean, I think that you have the actual raw flute track from the soundtrack, which has all the pitch correction put in, versus the real theme has some things that it just can't play. So.
Oh, I see. Well,
Anyway.
yeah, that's very good. I really enjoy your. I almost enjoy your variations more than I like the normal version, because they sound so